I'm Sarah Trevelyan, owner and founder of Sarah Loves to Sew, and this, what's this? Is little Ted. So I've got Ted here today because I'm going to show you how to make the doggy bandana and matching lead. So this is the beginner sewing box project for January 2023. I can't quite believe this is actually now going into my third year of these boxes. But we're going to make this gorgeous lead so it's nice and strong, Ted, and we're going to make one of these bandanas. So you can do them in different sizes. Obviously Ted's very little, but we can make them bigger. So you'll get everything that you need in the box, and you measure the neck of your dog so you can get it nice and right. So let's start making the dog bandana in lead, shall we? Yeah. Thank you. So to start making the dog lead, what you need to do is to get the long strip of paw fabric that's in the pack and get the long strip of interfacing. Now this interfacing has got a bobbly side, which is where the glue dots are, and a softer side. So what we want to do is iron the interfacing onto the lead, and this will make it stronger and stiffer. So that's the first thing you need to do. So the way that I do it is I put the interfacing with the bobble side up, so the glue sides are up, and then the wrong side of the paw fabric, and I just line that up. And because it's a very long strip, I just do try and make sure that it's lined up all the way. So I just put a pin or a clip at the bottom as well, just to make sure that, because it's on quite a long trajectory, that there's room for error. So a small little sort of slight going off angle up at the top can result in it sort of doing that a little bit. So just make sure it's all lined up. You can pin it, and then before you iron, you'll just remove those pins. So you can use an ironing board and your big iron, or what I tend to do is I've got this little sewing room iron, which is just the little travel iron, and I use that with this really lovely New Zealand wool ironing mat, and then I put an ironing cloth over the top just so that my iron doesn't get the bobbles on. So just bear with me while I get to that. So I found a very thin piece of cloth. This is just an offcut from one of the previous projects, the infinity scarf. Then you need a hot iron with steam, and you're just going to press that all the way along. Just keep lifting the cloth, double check that it's lined up, and then when it's got a slight overlap, just in case there's any glue showing, that's when the cloth will protect the iron. So you do that all the way along. Okay, excellent. So we've ironed that onto the dog lead fabric. Now to start making the lead, what we need to do is we need to fold this fabric in half. So you're making these edges meet, and then just giving it a little thumb press, and then move along all the way until we line up those edges. If you don't have sort of nails to do a thumb press, what you can do is either just use your fingers, but I find it doesn't do such a good line, or these are quite handy, just little rollers, and you can just press it as you go. You can use the iron if you like. I just find it's a bit quicker because I can still hold it in place with one hand while rolling the other, and you'll see in a moment what we're going to do next. So this line doesn't have to be really sharp at the moment, it's more of a guide. So we roll at that. Okay, and now the next thing that we do is we open it out again, and this time we're going to fold the edges into that middle line, and again have a nice press, and we're going to do that on both edges. So this side, press it all the way down to the end, and this side, like so, making sure they meet in that middle. And then you can press that one with the iron. So I'll just bring my ironing mat back in, and then press that. And you do that for the full length of the lead. And then once you've done that for the full length, the final step is to just fold it over one more time. And this time, give it a good final press with the iron. And then we want to clip it in place because we're going to start to sew it. So with the clips that you get in the kit, just clip them along the edges to secure it, ready for stitching. So you'll be using the straight stitch on your machine. I like the size 2.5 because it's a nice small neat stitch, and choosing the black thread that comes in the kit as well. So wind some on your bobbin, and then we can start sewing. Okay, so I've just finished ironing it all together. And this technique, once you've learnt this is a great technique that you'll just see over and over again in patterns when you're making straps for dresses or straps for belts or whatever, varying thicknesses. But this is how you create the strong strap that has no raw edges. So talking about edges, we need to do something with the ends before we sew. So I'll show you on this end. All we're going to do is just tuck it in so it makes it look nice and neat. So you open it out and you just fold it over like so, and press that in place. And then fold it back up, and once it's all closed up, you can see there's no raw edge there. So if you do that with both ends and just clip that in place, you'll then be able to sew from here back and forth to the corner and then down the long straight. When you're sewing down the straight, if your lead isn't exactly meeting, so mine here, one side's slightly shorter than the other, just have that side on the upside if you can, and then you can see that you're getting in both layers. What you don't want to be doing is sewing on this side and missing the bottom layer. Okay, let's go and sew it. Start sewing at the corner, go forward, press the reverse button, which on my machine's here, and it reverses for as long as it's kept down. So you go back to the start, lift the button, and then you go forward again. I always make sure the needle is in the fabric before I start. I think it's just a lot easier for the machine to cope with that, and then less chance for needle snapping. So then off we go. So we come to the end and put the needle in, lift the presser foot, pivot the fabric round, press the foot back down, and you're off. Straight line all the way down to the bottom. When you come to the other end, you're doing exactly the same by going around the corner. It is quite a bulk of fabric to get through, so don't worry if when you come to the end you find it's quite tough. What you can do is there's a tool called an owl, which is basically just a pointy tool that can help you push the fabric through. So on the machine we've got the little feet underneath the little grips, but when it's struggling to get through, what I tend to do is put my needle in by hand, wheeling it on the right rather than using my foot to pedal. And then I just help the thick bulky fabric through by using an owl, or just using your fingers, or maybe a chopstick or something if you don't have an owl, and just do it really slowly and guide that bulky fabric through. If it's still struggling, lift the presser foot up a little bit and the needle and just manually move it along this length of a stitch, and then put the needle back in, press the foot down and try again. But really don't worry about it. It will be more difficult getting through that bulk. If it's really problematic going that way, just do a few reverse stitches, take the cotton off, and start again from the same direction that we did at the start, because then you're going with the bulk and it's easier. Good luck. Okay, fab. So you've sewn all the way down one side and the two ends. Now we're going to carry on sewing all the way down the other side, just to give it that balanced look, and it will also just keep that line nice and sharp. So you can start at the top again and go forward, reverse, and then keep a similar seam allowance as the other side, and you're literally just sewing the full length, nice straight line all the way down. So I just do the two lines, but if you want to practice sewing, controlling your machine, you could do other patterns down the middle channel of the lead if you want to, because all of it will just help keep that interfacing in place, sort of like quilting. So if you wanted to, you could do more lines, or you could even do a little bit of you know, crisscross or anything really, but I'm just doing the two lines. Yeah, if you've got a machine that has embroidery stitches or anything like that and you want to practice it, it'd be quite nice to do it down the middle to give it a different look. So yeah, there's quite a few options that you can do if you wanted to do more stitch work in the lead. So that is now one long strap complete. So the next thing to do is attach, obviously snip your threads, but attach the clip and create the handle on the other side. Okay, so we've got our lovely lead. Now we just need to get the clip on it. So the clip here, really nice durable one, it's got the right opening for this width. So you just slide it through and you fold it over. Now to secure it, we'll be sewing, so we need to fold it over by 3 inches, and that gives us enough movement with a sewing machine away from the clip to be able to sew it, and also give it a really good, nice, strong, secure sort of base there, keeping that in. So you want to do it about 3 inches away from the end, and then just clip that in place, ready to sew. Okay, so take the clip out now, bring it to the machine, and we're going to secure it by doing a square, sewing a square and then a cross through it. And you probably recognise these when you've seen other sort of handles, what have you. So we should, there is quite a lot of bulk at the end here, so just put your presser foot in front of that so it's lying flat and it's not up on an angle, and then go forward, go back, and then we're going to turn the corner to create our, it'll be more like a rectangle than a square really. Go down, and you can stop in the stitches that you've already created, so you're going over the same stitches. And then I'm just going to snip these threads because I'm going back over there. and I don't want them to get caught. So we're turning it round, and off we go again. This is quite thick, so you might need to just encourage it by putting pressure on it. And back round again. A little tip, if you go beyond the stitching, you can always press the reverse button to go a stitch back. Now I'm going to go diagonal, so line it up so that you've got your sort of imaginary line from this corner to this corner here. And just do as neat a line as you can, and then just reinforce these stitches to the other corner, and then another diagonal line. So again, you're imagining, so we just sew that diagonal line and reverse back, and there you have it. If you feel like you want to do some more, carry on by all means. It will just help to reinforce that there. So I'm just going to trim all these threads, but that's that now firmly attached. Now we're going to use the same principle to create the handle. So just trim that, and then you take the other end and create a handle the length that you want. So you can obviously do it to just a bit more than the width of your hand. If you've got gloves or whatever, you might want it a little bit thicker. And then you do the same thing, clipping it in place, and then sewing a rectangle to secure that. So I'm doing my handle at 6 inches, and then just taking about an inch, so inch rectangle on the end here, and just doing exactly as we did when we secured the clip on. We're using the same technique, so a rectangle or square if you like up here with a diagonal cross through it. So there we go, and then that will be your lead complete. So I hope you've enjoyed learning this technique. And this is the same technique that you would use for if you're doing, straps on bags, if you're making bags, or even belts for clothes. Obviously you'd be attaching belt clips, not dog clips, but yes. So, or you could make several different dog leads with the same technique. So well done, nice and neat and strong. Okay, so to make the bandana we need to measure the dog's neck. So I'm making this one for Daisy, which is Ted's friend, so her neck is 13 inches. So as a guide, if you've got a 17-inch neck for the dog, you need to cut out a 12-inch square. If it's 15, it's 8 inches, and if it's 11, it's 7. So we're obviously in between those measurements, 15 and 11. So the 13 will be a 7-inch square. 7.5. So that's what I'm going to do for Daisy. So you just measure your dog's neck, and then using that guide, work out what size square you want. So we can cut that out, and then you've got plenty of fabric here to make bandanas for larger dogs. If you want, you can use 2 squares and double up the fabric if you want a really stiff feeling bandana. Or another thing that you can do is to spray the fabric with a starch spray which I'll just show you. This is the one I use. So I use this when I'm quilting. It's Mary Ellen's Best Press Clear Starch and Sizing Alternative, and I think this was bought from Amazon, but I think places like Hobbycraft and any of your normal sewing places sell this. So you can just give it a spray and iron that on, and that will just give the fabric a little bit more sort of stiffness, so it will stay in place. So you just literally give it a few squirts, and then with the iron you just iron that on in place. So helps if I turn my iron on before, and then just iron that over so it can get a little bit thicker. You don't have to do this. You can use, like I said, another square. Depends how many bandanas you want to get out of your fabric, really. So iron the starchy spray in place, and this will just give it a bit more stiffness to it. So the next thing that we're going to do is iron the square in half. Sorry, it's taking a little while for my iron to heat up here. So yes, sorry, when you're ironing this starch, you should be really pressing it, not smudging it or taking it out of shape. Okay, so once you've done that, you need to fold your corners together, like so. And you press that centre line down. Now this is the bit that will be going along the collar of the dog. So there's Daisy's neck, so it's going to be shorter, so it doesn't bunch up around the buckle, and it doesn't bunch the whole bandana up. I want it to be comfortable, obviously, and to look nice. Now once you've ironed that centre crease, you then want to open out the bandana, and if you've got a 1-inch collar, you need to have a fold of 4.5 inches. So bring your tape down, and where it says 4.5 inches, then you fold over that piece of fabric and iron. Press. And then you're going to do the same on the other side. So you're looking for 4.5. Make sure it's nice and straight, and fold that over as well. And press. Okay, once you've pressed that in place, just clip or pin those down, making sure those lines are nice and equal. And now you're going to sew along the edges. My iron is taking quite a while it's not heating up. Let me just check this iron. It's better. My iron's actually heated up now. So just pressing that in place. Try and get those little angles as straight as you can. You can be more exact by this, by measuring it out, but I'm just doing it by eye, and then double checking that's all in place. So then we'll be sewing down these corners just with straight stitch, and you just need to sew along here, along there, along here, along there. Do it for both sides. There we go. Okay, so take that to the sewing machine and just tack back at the start and the finish to secure it. Once you've sewn those corners down, next thing that you want to do is to fold it in half. Just snip these little edges here, and you want to fold it so that you've got the right sides together, and just line up your triangle. Okay, mine's a little bit off there, so I will just have to give it a trim, but press that down. Like so. And now you're going to sew along these edges. Don't sew down there. So you want to start just below the points, and with a 1/2 centimetre seam allowance, just sew along there. Okay, so I've just sewn, get rid of all these threads, along those sides. So now you can trim any loose threads and turn it round the right way. So to do this, you're going in through the hole and turn it through. Flip it all the way through and pull it out like so, making sure that you can point the little point down. You could use something like a chopstick or a little edge turner, so you just get that nice point at the bottom there. And then all we've got left to do is to give it a nice press and sew the channel for the collar to slip through. Okay, so where it meets here, you just want to sew a straight line from one side down to the other. If it helps, you can use a ruler and tailor's chalk, or these pens are really handy. Well, they're not pens, they've got tailor's chalk on them, but they're really nice, and you get a much better, finer edge than you do if you're using the actual sort of piece of chalk. So I'm just untangling a bit of thread there that's got sewn in, one of the starter threads. So then you just want to get your line, draw it nice and straight, and then you'll have your little diddy bandana. Here we go, that's the bandana complete, and you've got the slip to put the collar through there. If you want to, you can go and do some extra sewing along the top here, just to keep that nice and neat, so when it's washed it's easier. Just give it a final press, and there we have it, one dog bandana to go with a lovely matching lead. So I really hope that you've enjoyed making these, and that you will show me how you've got on. If you've got any questions at all, message me or pop into the Facebook group. But I would love to see, there's a beginner sewing box Facebook group which is for my members, and I've also got my Sewing Confidence community group. So either of those, just let me know how you've got on, and I'd love to see your finished products. And I also do give out prizes little sewing gifts for people that do finish their products and photograph them and share them on there. So I really hope you've enjoyed making those, and you'll make lots more, and I'll see you next time. Bye.